Honorable Senator Cheese, Pia, and the management team of Cebuana Libre. I'm so glad to be invited here to share our thoughts in the academe on the context of inclusivity, and most of it already has been announced, explained by Senator Cheese. Okay lang din po bang mag-Tagalog? Mas masarap po ang mag-Tagalog. Correct? Alright, just to show you that in the last years, the Philippines actually has been growing very fast. And despite the seemingly slowing down last year, hindi naman po talaga slow down yun. In a sense, because we still grew above 6%, which is after the 1808-09 crisis. And in the ASEAN 4 growth story, the Philippines remain to have one of the fastest growth still up to today. So, okay pa rin, no? Look at this data. In the 80s, we're growing 2.4. In the early 2000, 4.5. And the last decade, we're growing at 6.4. And this is something that is really very important in our economic growth right now. Maganda rin tignan, no, that household consumption remain as the growth driver. And as we're talking about inclusivity, many people really still spend a lot of money instead of saving. Kaya tingnan natin, this is the challenge where you want to put inclusivity into context, particularly financial inclusion, because it's still a consumer-driven economy. So, tignan, kahit na po may inflation last year, nag-slow down, pero malaki pa rin. And just like what the Senator said earlier, agriculture has been declining, and this is the data that we can see very clearly. From year 1999, it was about 14% of GDP. And last year, ito na po ay 8.1% na lang ng GDP, yung agricultural sector natin. And the growth rate is so erratic, up and down. And so, a lot of people are moving out of that sector basically because of the slow growth. And what has been pulling the growth of this economy is basically the trade sector. So we are so service-oriented at pupunta sa mga services rather than production, yung economic driver natin. And one of the driver, of course, is the BPO sector. And this is what the Senator was saying earlier. This is the share of labor across the different industries in the economy. And you can see the green there, yung green bar at the bottom, represents the agricultural sector. The people who are working in the agricultural sector. So, if you look at the growth condition, the growth driver is industry and services, and yet most of the people still work in the agricultural sector. About, as the Senator said, 30% are still working in the agricultural sector. And if you look at the data in the last year, comparing just 2 years, the unemployment rate may have been going down, but look at I've encircled two aspects there. We are losing jobs in the agricultural sector. Okay, so if there are many people dependent in the agricultural sector, we are losing jobs there. The jobs that are being created are in the industry and services sector. And this is also interesting. Tingnan natin where the jobs are going. The jobs are going into the formal sector. What has happened in the last few years, more people are going into formal employment. So the wage and salary workers have been increasing. And ang effect naman niya is that few people are becoming self-employed. Balancing effect ng kailangan natin, we want to see that more people are actually working and getting formal employments, particularly the recent passage of the new SSS, yung new law on SSS, yung coverage will be wider. So you will see more people getting quality jobs. So what is the interpretation here? The Philippines has about 110 million population, only about 71 million yung working age, supposed to be 15 years old and over. But look at how many people only participate in the economy, who are really working. Out of the 71 million, only 61% working. Continues to go down. This is a very puzzling indicator. As the economy is growing, more people are not working. Hindi po sumasali, not participating in the labor force. And that's why even if the unemployment rate is going down, but there are so many people who are not or opting not to work. I'll show you later in comparison across Asia. Right? So there is decreasing unemployment, but what is not noticeable here is that meron po tayong improvement in what is known as the underemployment. What is the underemployment rate? This is the people who have jobs that are not full-time. Maybe they are working only part-time, or their jobs are they have high qualification and they're not paid well. So in this case, it's decreasing. So that means people are getting quality jobs at the moment. And also, if you look at the current trend right now, particularly those working age 30 to 20, yung mga nasa mga millennials, they are working in what is known as in a gig economy. No? Papasok ngayon, tapos magre-resign, basta nakuha na nila yung pang-tour nila, tapos na, magre-resign na naman. So, gano'n, no? Gig economy. Look at this, is very interesting. Look at the bar, to the biggest bar on top. Many of our workers right now are like that, especially the young ones. It's very difficult for the human resource to train people because they will, if you train them after a few months, magre-resign. So, personal experience yan, kasi yung anak ko gano'n, pasok, labas. Pag may gig na siya, re-resign na naman siya. So, this is I think most of you who have millennials in your company would agree with what I'm saying. Let me just quickly pass through this data, macro data on external debt. The Philippines has now one of the lowest external debt conditions that allows us to access the international market supposedly. So yung challenge natin sa pangutang abroad would be much better now than before because we have a better exchange debt condition. Interest rates unfortunately started to increase because of inflation last year and so many other factors that because government needs money to fund its bill program, right? And this is the excise tax that we experienced also last year. I'm putting all of this here so that we have a perspective on what inclusivity is all about, not just financial inclusion, but overall how it affects everyone. So the excise tax will not stop this year, no? Next year, another 150 for diesel and 1 peso for gas. Suffice it to say that this is something geopolitical. We cannot predict it. Even the best of the DOF forecast was not able to forecast it as we wanted it. But the inflation rate that happened to us last year, I think most of the people who were afraid of inflation last year were millennials because they never experienced inflation more than 10%. Right? Because I'm showing you data going back many years, diba? Totoo naman, inflation was about 62% in the 1980s. And so it was about 10% in January 2008. So, it's not something that we should be fearing right now. Venezuela has inflation that can no longer be recorded. And if you look at the data or the news right now, the average Venezuelan has already lost 11 kilos. So if you want to lose weight, doon na kayo. Diba? So the problem is that it was hyped so much. So I want to show you this difficult assumption. So, hindi natin ma-forecast yung price ng oil because it's geopolitical, as I said. And just like what the good senator said, important yung rice. Rice consists about, the yellow bar there is about 10% roughly of the consumer basket. And when you talk about inclusivity, it's very important that people have inclusive access to basic commodities. And this is where rice plays a major role. And that's why the passage of the rice tariffication law would ensure that there would be rice. No? The sinasabi ni Senator Cheese, if you go to Vietnam, the rice, retail rice in peso terms would roughly about 15 pesos per kilo. Kahit na may tariff ka na 10 pesos, still cheaper, right? So the passage of the Rice Tariffication Act would help stable supply. And kalimutan na natin yung ganong challenge that happened to us in the last few years, right? This is the Build program, challenged by many of these things, right of way, supply bottlenecks, technical manpower bottlenecks. This is also an inclusive approach. No? You want to build infrastructure so that people can have access. And we are doing it all at the same time right now, kaya traffic, and it's not only a problem of Metro Manila, those who have traveled, the traffic is all over because we are building. And madami po dyan, ongoing naman, nakikita natin na hopefully they're finished in due time, right? There's another challenge that is going to be faced in relation to the tax. It's the corporate income tax rate, which was not, hindi na abot, still under discussion. The intention is good to bring down the corporate income tax rate to at least the level of Indonesia, 25%. The context is that you have to remove or to rationalize the incentives. Pag i-rationalize natin yung incentives, that means either we remove some of them or we make them like an average. Look at the incentive structure of the current tax rates. Agriculture has already a very low incentive tax rate, 6.3%, and some of the incentives we give are actually longer than the rest. So, okay lang na i-review natin yun. It doesn't mean, it doesn't hurt us to rationalize the tax rates right now. Now we have a bigger problem kung inclusivity. We have a global conditions that we are working within as well. There is what we all know a trade war between the US and China, and buti na lang on hold siya. The other day, President Trump says, we will discuss it again. So on hold. But this is challenging for us because the Philippines is part of what is known as the global value chain. And so many of the products we export to other countries are actually inputs or outputs that come from our relationship with China and the US. So about 25% of our exports and imports go to China and the US. The thing is, when the global growth slows down, affected din yung buong Philippines. Particularly China, because what's happening at China is it's slowing down. Kapag nag-slow down in China, mag-slow down din yung world economic growth. You look at yourself. How much of what we wear today, or the gadget that we use, is made in the Philippines? But if you put in the context there, mas marami po dyan made in China. And so if China's economic growth slows down, it affects all of us, particularly our exporters, because of the input factors of the value chain. Right? So this is what we might be seeing in the next few years. So the world forecasters, IMF and World Bank, actually concerned that China is slowing down. Mas natatakot sila doon. Our challenge also is that our export portfolio, yung export ng Philippines, has not changed. I think most of us should know that our number one export is not banana and mango and the rest. It is the electronic components. And those electronic components have not changed significantly in so many years. So kung di siya nagbabago, wala po tayong bagong export na dine-develop. So as we talk about inclusivity, our challenge is to move to the next level. How do we move to the next level? Let me skip this and go to remittances. Last year, the peso was weak, but is the peso weak this year? Di masyado, no? Those of you observing the stock market, there must be a strong correlation. When the stock market goes up, the peso appreciates. When the stock market goes down, the peso depreciates. At least on that relationship, there is some observable direction. But if you look at which should strengthen the peso, or what will make the peso a stable currency, it's fundamental. So it is exports, it is remittances, it is BPOs, tourism. Look at remittance growth, it has been normalizing. Later I'll show you some data. I've done a lot of work on remittances and how people use remittances, which has a relationship with what this conference is all about. The remittances is normalizing at 3%. So our own view in 2010, we made the forecast saying that remittances will not go much faster because of two factors. Number one, the global factor. As people use less oil, there would be less need for foreign workers in the Middle East. So, konti yung re-recruit nilang Pilipino. So, ang nire-recruit nila right now are not the professionals, but more of the service and lower income workers. So, on a per capita basis, even if more Filipinos are going abroad, their remittance is much lower than those who are professionals. Tourism arrivals, we still have one of the best tourism area in Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, we can only show 7 million tourists last year. This is so small. I'm showing you comparison. Look at Malaysia, 25 million tourists. Singapore, 14 million. Thailand, 35. Vietnam, 12 million. So tourism actually is one of the simplest service industry that can make, improve countryside development much faster because of the value chains in tourism. Right? If you have a tourist spot, you need a tour guide, you need vehicles, and the capital is not as large as building a lot of infrastructure. Unfortunately, the key gateways are the key critical aspects. So that's why the build is also important there. So we depend a lot also on export of services. This is, however, being challenged by artificial intelligence. We are so dependent on the contact centers, but the contact centers can be replaced by artificial intelligence. So lumiliit na yung time na available yung contact centers na yan. So we have to rush and get to that group of bringing up our export of services, not to remain in the BPO as processing only. Well, the DTI had come up with a way to arrest all of this weakening of the export sector. Do you know that the Philippines produces some parts of the airplanes? No, meron tayong aerospace industry here. I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of the airplane doors are made here. Pag sumakay kayo ng plane, tingnan nyo kung made in the Philippines yun. But at least we have those industries coming here. Not the whole plane, but part of them. And the story is not yet complete, because the Philippines remain to be one of in the region, consistently rising investment. Investment continues to rise in the Philippines, despite what we are seeing. So you can see there. And what are we investing on? Most of it are in construction and durable equipment. So we are putting in a lot of information on activities that we need to expand the economy. So when you invest in equipment, you don't keep it. You use it for expansion. When you invest in construction, you are building capacity. So despite the weakening that we are seeing in the growth, in the near future, this should be used for expansion. And also, this is something very important. Why financial inclusion and inclusion in general is very important. The Philippines is already in the threshold of what is known as the demographic dividend. In which case, kanina pinakita ko, demographic dividend means that about the working age population, those aged 15 to 64, will be the biggest share of the total population. That means if all of the people are working, yung nasa working age, then the probability of income going up faster is fastest at this point. We are entering that. And that sweet spot, as we call it, will happen from 2020 up to 2045. So we are already there. Okay, so the young people now who are working and the generation that will come after them will result to what is known as kumbaga sa kotse, this is the turbo boost for economic growth. Most developed countries pass through what is known as a demographic dividend stage, right? However, there is something bothering this development because this data shows us something that we should be concerned about, right? Have you observed people in the workplace na yung sinabihan mo na, uulitin mo pa? Parang hindi nakukuha? Okay, ano po yun? May kinalaman sa what is known as stunting, right? The brain is not as developed as it should be. And one of every 3 children right now is stunted. And that means your future generation of workers have a challenge in that. I think in the TV commercial, pinalabas na rin ito eventually. But this is data we have known from about 3-4 years ago because we have seen the trend. It's not changing. So stunting is alarming. right? And this is what I'm saying earlier about artificial intelligence. The share of jobs requiring artificial intelligence skills is increasing significantly. China, UK, and US, you will see, increasing significantly. So if you have people who are not capable of stunting, mahina ang mind capacity, and they're requiring artificial intelligence in the future, then you have a challenge of inclusivity. So your training program must also change significantly. The way schools are delivering programs, right? The most vulnerable sector, as I said, are contact centers and transcription. Because this can be replaced easily even by our own phones. No? Kaya na nilang gawin yun. And as we all know, this is data comparing the Philippine savings rate across East Asia. We have the lowest savings rate in East Asia. And most of the information has been explained earlier, right? But I want to show you something that I worked on this is a continuing work, 2010 up to the present, going into different municipalities in the Philippines, trying to find out what is the real reason why people don't invest, don't save, or don't go into business. And we had some surveys. We did some surveys in about 5 towns, and trying to find out, comparing people who receive remittances and people who don't receive remittances. And you find there that really, if you have people working overseas in your homes, the probability is that they will not invest. People will not invest because there is flow coming, right? So they will not invest. And also, if look at the second line there, all negative means the probability is that if there's an OFW in the family, may insurance ka na di ba? So why do you need to do some of this, right? So it's a challenge, really. And we ask them simple financial behavior questions. I guess before we go into financial inclusion, what is really important is to understand financial behavior. How do people behave? Sinasabi walang kita. Hindi po totoo walang kita rin, di ba? So we ask them this question. This is in 3 municipalities around the country. One in Bohol, one in Bicol, and one in Bulacan. And we have just completed one in Tingras, Ilocos, and one in Davao. And this survey will tell you a very interesting thing. We asked them some simple financial literacy tests. No? So look at the answers. Those who have answered correctly, at least yung nakakasagot ng tama, most of them did not even make 75%. That means many people have no clear idea about interest rates, inflation, and loans. Although pinakamataas na alam nila loans. Okay, they are aware of loans. We ask them, where do you get ideas about handling money? And these are the answers. Compare remitters, migrant families, and non-overs, those who have no migrants in their families. Look at the answer. Where do you get ideas about handling money? Nakalagay dyan, own ideas. Own ideas. And when we ask them the question, do you need help in handling money? Most of the answer says, no, we don't need help. We have our own ideas. Then we ask them another question. How do you assess your skills in handling money? Majority answered, good. Okay? So, this very small sample already gives us an idea that there are a lot of challenges in doing financial inclusion because the literacy is not good. Financial literacy is not good. See, we also ask them savings, no? Do you have savings? Actually, most of them have at least this average savings. No? If you are sending money from abroad, at least 17,000. If you are a family receiving remittance, at least 5,000. And even those who have no remittance received every month, at least 4,000. Right? So meron pong nasisave. So you just need to capture this. So, saan sila nagpupunta? And then, after asking this, we ask them a basic question. Do you record your income and expense? So most Filipinos, I think, will answer no record of resources, but have a general idea how much is received or spent. So, mga ano tayo, di ba? Psychic yung mga Pilipino. So, we don't care. We know we got money, on the average is how. So, everybody, mostly about 60% answered na gano'n ng way nila to handle money. And I think that is something the schools have to teach. But the schools, if the teachers have the problem, dapat yung parents ang magtuturo. Pero kung yung parents hindi nagre-record, hindi may papas. So, kaya sinasabi nila wala silang pang savings, pero actually meron because mental walang record, right? Right. So I think sinabi rin towards the end of the senator's speech, he talked about the challenge of governance, yung kanyang kinol. And the problem of the Philippines is not business incentive, but mostly governance. Inefficient government bureaucracy is our problem. And as I said kanina, I showed you the Philippines increasingly has a very low labor force participation rate. And this is not good for inclusion, neither financial nor overall, because if people are not participating in income-generating activities, then where will they get money to save, right? And the Philippines has one of the lowest labor force participation rate across the same countries I compared earlier. So yun po yung challenges natin. But as I end, I just want to perk you up. This is data from our colleagues from the Asian Development Bank. Very interesting. Sabi nila, actually the Philippines growing at 6% and just above 6% is just right. If you are, I can compare it to like driving a car. If your car is 1300 engine, you cannot push it to run at 2.0. You will overheat. So if we are running at about 6%, that's just about the growth rate that you need right now, because that is what your capacity is. So if the Bill and all of these infrastructure program are finished on time, then your capacity would have expanded. Then you would expect a higher growth rate then. So ngayon, kung we're moving about 6.3, we're just about in that right direction. Right capacity. So we don't need to push it too hard, too fast, otherwise we overheat. Okay, so I guess I'll end here, and later si Ms. Pia we can answer some of the perspective from the government and BSP side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alvin. May I please ask you to